Something brought you here, and no, it wasn't random. Not the timing, not the title, not even the feeling in your chest right now. Because let's be honest, something has felt off lately, hasn't it? A strange tension you can't explain. Moments where everything seems normal on the outside, yet inside something feels unsettled. Like you're sensing something but you can't quite see it. Like you're being watched, not in fear but in awareness. Like something bigger is unfolding just beyond your understanding. And here you are, right now, reading this. That is not coincidence. That is interruption. A divine interruption. Because there are moments when heaven does not whisper. It intervenes. It steps directly into your path, interrupts your routine, breaks your scrolling, and says, "Stop. Pay attention. This is for you." And this is one of those moments. Archangel Michael has stepped forward, not symbolically, not metaphorically, but spiritually, intentionally, and urgently. His presence is not passive. His energy is not distant. He is active right now, engaged in a battle that has your name written all over it. You didn't come looking for this message. This message came looking for you, because something had been happening behind the scenes of your life. Something you felt but couldn't explain. Doors that almost opened, but didn't. Conversations that felt strange. Sudden emotional waves that didn't make sense. Fatigue that wasn't physical. Thoughts that didn't feel like your own. You brushed it off. You told yourself, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe it's nothing. But what if it's not nothing? What if it's something spiritual? What if what you've been experiencing isn't just life being difficult but a battle being fought? Because right now, in the unseen realm, there is movement. There is strategy. There is resistance. And there is also protection. And at the center of it all is you. Archangel Michael does not show up without purpose. He does not draw his sword without cause. And if he is present, it means something significant is unfolding. Something that required divine attention. Something that required heavenly defense. You may not see the battle, but you've been feeling the impact. That sudden heaviness. A confusion that came out of nowhere. The tension in relationships you couldn't explain. Those were not random. Those were ripples of something deeper. Because when something valuable is about to emerge in your life, resistance rises first. And you, yes, you, are standing on the edge of something. Something that the spiritual realm recognizes even if you don't fully see it yet. That's why this message had to interrupt you. That's why you couldn't scroll past. That's why something inside you said, "Wait, read this." Because Archangel Michael is not just fighting a battle, he is fighting your battle. Right now. At this very moment. And this is your awakening. This is where confusion begins to turn into clarity. This is where fear begins to lose its grip. This is where you stop dismissing what you feel and start understanding it. You are not imagining things. You are not overreacting. You are becoming aware. And awareness is the first step to victory. So don't rush past this moment. Don't treat this like just another message. Because something sacred is happening right now. Something is being revealed. Something is shifting. And this is only the beginning. Type "I am aware" in the comments if you feel this message stirring your spirit. Blessing code 1010 is now activating around you. There is a war unfolding around you, and the most unsettling part is this. You cannot see it with your physical eyes, yet you have been feeling its effects in ways you couldn't explain. This is not imagination. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when the spiritual realm begins to move while the natural world remains unaware. You have been walking through moments that felt heavier than they should, reactions that felt stronger than necessary, and resistance that seemed to come from nowhere. And all this time, you thought it was just life being difficult. But no, something deeper has been taking place behind the veil. Because there are two realms operating at the same time. The one you see, and the one you don't. And while your daily life continues on the surface, conversations, responsibilities, routines, there has been activity in the unseen realm that directly impacts everything you experience. This is where battles are formed before they ever manifest. This is where opposition is assigned before it ever shows up as delay. And right now, that unseen realm has been unusually active concerning you. You may have noticed how certain situations escalated quickly without clear reason. How peace turned into tension overnight. How clarity became confusion without warning. These are not random shifts. These are spiritual ripples, evidence that something has been moving behind the scenes. Because when a battle is happening in the spirit, it rarely announces itself loudly. It moves subtly. It influences emotions. It distorts perception. It creates pressure where there should be peace. And if you are not aware, you will think the problem is external when in truth, the source is spiritual. There had been resistance against your progress, and it has not been accidental. It has been strategic. Moments where you felt close to breakthrough, only to be pulled back by unexpected distractions. Times when your energy suddenly dropped for no clear reason. Instances where your focus was disrupted just when you needed clarity the most. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs of interference. Because whenever something valuable is forming in your life, opposition begins to rise in the unseen before it ever shows itself in the visible. This is why things have felt inconsistent. One moment you feel strong, the next you feel drained. One day you feel clear, the next day everything feels clouded. That instability is not your identity. It is the result of a battle trying to shake your alignment. And the goal of that battle is not necessarily to destroy you, but to confuse you. Because confusion is one of the most effective tools in spiritual warfare. When your mind is unclear, your decisions become delayed. When your emotions are unsettled, your confidence begins to weaken. And when that happens, you begin to question yourself instead of recognizing what is happening around you. But here is what changes everything. You are not alone in this war. While there had been opposition, there has also been defense. While there has been interference, there has also been intervention. And this is where Archangel Michael enters the picture, not as a distant figure, but as an active force in the unseen realm. Because for every strategy formed against you, there had been a counter-strategy formed for you. For every attempt to delay you, there has been a force pushing to preserve your path. And even when you felt overwhelmed, you were never unprotected. The reason you are beginning to sense this now is because the veil is thinning for you. Awareness is increasing. You are starting to recognize that not everything you experience is rooted in the physical. Some things are spiritual in origin, and once you begin to see that, your perspective changes completely. You stop internalizing everything as your fault. You stop blaming yourself for every shift. You begin to understand that there are forces at work, both against you and for you. And right now, that unseen war is reaching a critical point. Movement is intensifying. Things are being repositioned. What had been hidden is beginning to surface, not all at once but in layers. You will start to notice patterns more clearly. You will begin to see through situations that once confused you. And what once felt overwhelming will begin to make sense. Because the purpose of this revelation is not to scare you, it is to prepare you. You are being shown this because awareness changes how you respond. When you understand that a battle exists, you stop reacting blindly. You become intentional. You become grounded. You begin to move with clarity instead of confusion. And that shift alone changes everything. This is the moment where you stop walking unaware and start walking awakened. Type ISE clearly now in the comments if this is resonating with you. Blessing Code 2020 is now surrounding your path. There is something you must understand right now, and you must understand it deeply, because it changes everything about how you see what you've been going through. The battle you are sensing is real, but so is the protection surrounding you. And not just general protection, not distant or passive coverage, but active, intentional, and immediate defense. Archangel Michael has not only stepped into this situation, he has drawn his sword. And when Michael draws his sword, it is not symbolic. It is not ceremonial. It is decisive. Because his sword represents action. It represents separation. It represents the cutting away of dissection, interference, and anything that has tried to attach itself to your life without permission. Right now, in the unseen realm, there is movement happening on your behalf. Things are being blocked that you never even knew were on their way to you. Conversations are being disrupted before they reach your ears. Plans formed against you are being dismantled before they can manifest in your reality. And you didn't have to ask for all of it consciously. Some of this protection was activated simply because of who you are, because of what you carry, because of the assignment over your life. There have been moments recently where something didn't go the way you expected, and at the time, it felt frustrating. It felt confusing. It even felt like loss. But what you could not see in that moment was that interception had taken place. What looked like delay was actually protection. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What seemed like something slipping away was actually something being removed before it could harm you. That is how precise this protection is. Because when Archangel Michael is fighting on your behalf, nothing is random. Every interruption has intention. Every closed door has purpose. Every shift you didn't understand carried a deeper reason that was working in your favor, even when it didn't feel like it. And this is why you are still standing. Think about that for a moment. With everything that has tried to weigh on you, distract you, confuse you, and pull you off course, you are still here. Still moving. Still seeking clarity. Still searching for truth. That is not just resilience. That is evidence of protection. There were things that should have overwhelmed you but didn't. Situations that could have gone completely differently but didn't. Moments where the outcome could have been far worse but somehow it wasn't. That somehow is not chance. That somehow is intervention. Michael hath been standing in places you could not see. He has been stepping into situations before you even realized they existed. He has been guarding paths you have not yet walked on. And even now, there are things being handled that you may never fully become aware of, because they will never reach you. That is the level of protection you are under. But here is where it becomes even more powerful. This protection is not only defensive, it is also strategic. It is not just about blocking what is against you. It is also about positioning you for what is for you. While certain things are being cut off, other things are being aligned. While one door is being closed, another is being prepared. While something is being removed, something better is being arranged. This is why things may feel like they are shifting quickly. Because when protection activates at this level, it doesn't move slowly. It adjusts your environment in real time. It rearranges connections. It redirects timing. It accelerates what needs to move forward and blocks what needs to stay away. And sometimes they can feel uncomfortable, because you may not always understand why certain people are becoming distant. You may not understand why certain opportunities suddenly feel out of reach. You may question why things are changing when you didn't ask for change. But what you must remember is this: protection does not always feel gentle. Sometimes it feels like disruption. Sometimes it feels like separation. Sometimes it feels like things falling apart, when in reality, they are being pulled apart for your safety. Archangel Michael does not negotiate with what is misaligned. He removes it. He separates it. He clears it. And he does it with precision. So if something has recently shifted in your life, if something has been taken away, delayed, or redirected, do not immediately assume loss. Consider that you are being covered in ways you cannot yet see. Consider that there is a level of awareness operating on your behalf that is far greater than your current understanding. Because right now you are not exposed. You are shielded. You are guided. You are being defended in real time. And this battle you've been sensing is not one you are fighting alone. Michael is in it with you. His sword is drawn. And nothing that is not meant for you will be allowed to remain. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now activated around your life. As you receive this truth, understand this: every word spoken here is not just reaching you. It is reaching countless others who are still walking in confusion, still searching for clarity, still waiting for light to break through their darkness. When you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a voice. You are sowing into a movement that carries revelation into places where silence once ruled. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not just scripture. It is a living exchange unfolding in real time through your obedience. I am calling you now, in this very moment, to act. Not later, not eventually, but now, because your seed becomes a torch in someone else's storm. This is not a donation. This is a divine alignment with what heaven is doing through this message. As you release your offering, know that it is being multiplied, that it is opening doors, that it is activating favor over your life. Step into this moment with faith, and let your giving become part of the battle that brings light to others. There is a question that has quietly lived in the back of your mind, even if you've never said it out loud. Why does it feel like things have been harder than they should be? Why does it seem like every time you move forward, something pushes back? Why do certain challenges feel so persistent, so specific, so personal? And the answer to that question is not what you may have assumed. It is not because you are weak. It is not because you are unlucky. It is not because life has singled you out unfairly. The truth is far deeper than that. You have been targeted because you were chosen. You must understand this clearly. Not every life carries the same weight of resistance, because not every life carries the same level of purpose. The intensity of the battle you have been experiencing is directly connected to the significance of what is inside you. There is something about your path, your presence, your spirit that has made you noticeable in the unseen realm. And when something carries divine potential, opposition does not ignore it. It responds to it. This is why your journey has not been simple. This is why your growth has come with pressure. This is why certain situations have felt like they were designed specifically to test you. Because in many ways, they were. Not to break you, but to reveal you. Not to destroy your path, but to strengthen your awareness of it. You are not walking through random challenges. You are moving through intentional resistance that is trying to measure your alignment, your focus, and your ability to stay grounded in the middle of uncertainty. There is a reason why you feel things deeply. There is a reason why you notice shifts that others overlook. There is a reason why your intuition has always been stronger than you could explain. These are not accidental traits. These are indicators. Indicators that you are connected to something beyond the surface level of life. And because of that connection, your presence alone disrupts environments that are not aligned. Your growth challenges people who are comfortable staying the same. Your clarity exposes what others would rather keep hidden. And that kind of presence does not go unnoticed. You may have experienced moments where people misunderstood you without reason. Times when your intentions were clear to you, but misread by others. Situations where your progress seemed to create tension instead of support. These are not just social dynamics. These are reflections of a deeper reality. When you begin to move in alignment with something greater, it creates a contrast. And that contrast can bring resistance from places you didn't expect. But again, this is not because something is wrong with you. It is because something is right with you. There is something in your life that carries direction, and that direction matters. It matters enough that there hath been an effort to interrupt it, delay it, or distract you from fully stepping into it. Not always through obvious obstacles, but often through subtle means. Through doubt, through emotional fatigue, through moments of questioning yourself when you were actually on the right path. Because if you can be made to doubt your own clarity, you slow down. If you can be made to second-guess your instincts, you hesitate. And if you hesitate long enough, you delay what was meant to move forward. That is the strategy. But here is what changes everything. The very fact that you are becoming aware of this means that strategy is no longer working the same way. Awareness breaks patterns. Awareness disrupts cycles. Awareness allows you to see what you once absorbed without question. And now, you are starting to recognize that your experiences are not just random events strung together. They are connected. You are starting to see that the pressure had purpose, that the resistance had direction, that the challenges were shaping something in you that could not have been developed any other way. Because what you are becoming requires strength. It requires clarity. It requires the ability to stand firm even when things around you feel uncertain. And that kind of strength is not given without process. It is built through moments like the ones you have been walking through. You were not placed in this position by accident. You were prepared for it. And even when you didn't feel ready, even when you questioned whether you could handle it, something in you kept moving forward. Something in you refused to completely shut down. Something in you kept searching, kept listening, kept trying to understand. That something is not random. That is alignment. That is the part of you that knows there is more. And that is the part of you this battle could never reach. Because while you were being challenged, you were also being shaped. While things felt uncertain, something inside you was becoming more certain. And while resistance was trying to slow you down, it was also revealing just how much you are capable of standing through. You are not here by accident. You are not in this battle by mistake. You are here because you were meant to be. And now, you are beginning to see it. Type "I am chosen for this" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4040 is now lining your path. There have been moments, quiet, subtle, almost easy to dismiss, where something inside you tried to get your attention. Not loudly, not dramatically, but persistently. A thought that came out of nowhere and stayed longer than it should have. A feeling that didn't match your surroundings. A sudden shift in energy when nothing visible had changed. And each time, you paused for a second then moved on. You told yourself it was nothing. You explained it away. You kept going. But it was nothing. Those were signals. Because heaven does not always speak in ways that are obvious. It doesn't always interrupt with noise. More often, it communicates through patterns, through impressions, through moments that feel slightly out of place but carry a deeper meaning. And the truth is, you've been receiving these signals for a while now. You just didn't fully recognize them for what they were. Think back to the times when you felt an unexplainable hesitation about something that seemed perfectly fine on the surface. There was no clear reason to question it, yet something inside you said, wait. That wasn't fear. That wasn't doubt. That was discernment. It was a quiet warning trying to guide you before something unfolded. Were the moments when certain people suddenly felt different to you. Not because they changed outwardly, but because your perception of them shifted. Conversations that once felt easy started to feel forced. Interactions that once felt natural began to carry tension. You may have tried to ignore it, to maintain normalcy, to convince yourself that nothing had changed. But something had, and you felt it. That was another sign. There have also been times when your environment itself felt heavier. Days where nothing was technically wrong, yet everything felt off. Your energy dropped without explanation. Your focus scattered without cause. Your peace felt interrupted, even in silence. And again, you pushed through it. You labeled it as stress, as fatigue, as just one of those days. But it was more than that. Because when the unseen realm is active, it often touches the natural realm through feeling before it reveals itself through fact. You feel it before you understand it. You sense it before you can explain it. And if you're not aware, you will dismiss it instead of responding to it. Even your dreams, there have been moments where your sleep carried messages your waking mind could not fully interpret. Dreams that felt unusually vivid. Scenarios that stayed with you long after you woke up. Emotions in those dreams that felt real, almost like they were trying to show you something rather than just pass through your mind. You may not have understood them, but you remembered them. That matters, because those were not random either. All of these moments, your thoughts, your feelings, your perceptions, your dreams, they have been forming a pattern. A pattern that has been trying to guide you, warn you, and prepare you at the same time. But because the signs were subtle, because they didn't come with clear explanations, you kept moving past them. And that is exactly how subtle interference works. It relies on you overlooking what you feel. It relies on you doubting your own awareness. It relies on you choosing comfort over clarity in those small moments where something doesn't feel right. But now, that is changing. Because once you recognize the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand that those moments were not random, you begin to treat them differently. You begin to pause instead of pushing through. You begin to listen instead of dismissing. You begin to observe instead of reacting automatically. And that shift is powerful. Because now, you are no longer just experiencing life. You are interpreting it. You are no longer moving blindly. You are moving with awareness. You are starting to understand that what you feel has value, that your perception has purpose, that your inner signals are not something to ignore but something to trust. Heaven has been speaking to you, not once, not twice, but repeatedly, through moments you almost missed, through feelings you almost ignored, through patterns you are only now beginning to understand. And the reason this awareness is coming to you now is because the timing matters. You are entering a phase where clarity is required, where decisions will need to be made with precision, where alignment will matter more than ever, and you cannot afford to overlook what you sense anymore. This is where your attention sharpens. This is where your awareness deepens. This is where you stop second-guessing what you feel and start recognizing it as guidance. Because those signs you once ignored were never meant to be ignored. They were meant to prepare you. And now, you are ready to see them clearly. Type "I trust what I feel" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 5050 is now strengthening your discernment. Now that your awareness is opening, now that you are beginning to recognize that something deeper has been happening around you, it is time to understand the strategy behind it. Because this battle you've been sensing is not random, and it is not chaotic. It is structured, it is intentional, and it follows a pattern that has been quietly working against you through three primary forces: distraction, delay, and distortion. It begins with distraction. Distraction is subtle. It does not announce itself as danger. It presents itself as normal life, as harmless interruptions, as things that seem urgent but are not important. You may have noticed how your focus has been pulled in multiple directions recently. How just when you try to center yourself, something pulls your attention away. A sudden task, an unnecessary conversation, a wave of thoughts that seem to come from nowhere. And before you realize it, the clarity you were trying to hold on to begins to slip. That is not accidental, because distraction is designed to disconnect you from your awareness. If your attention is constantly scattered, you cannot fully recognize what is happening around you. If your mind is always occupied, you cannot hear the quiet signals that guide you. And if you are pulled into enough distractions, you begin to move on autopilot instead of intention. That is the first layer. Then comes delay. Delay is more frustrating because it feels like something is almost within reach but never fully arrives. You may have experienced moments where progress seemed certain, where things were finally aligning, where it felt like a breakthrough was about to happen. And then suddenly, something shifted. Something slowed down. Something interrupted the flow. And what you thought was about to move forward became stuck. Delay creates doubt. Because when things don't move when you expect them to, you begin to question yourself. You begin to wonder if you made the wrong decision, if you misunderstood something, if you should pull back instead of pushing forward. And that hesitation, that second guess, is exactly what delay is meant to produce. It is not just about stopping movement. It is about making you stop yourself. Because if you start to doubt your own direction, you will slow down without anything needing to stop you externally. You will hold back even when the path is still open. You will question opportunities that were meant for you. And in that hesitation, time passes. That is the second layer. And then comes distortion. Distortion is the most subtle, and often the most powerful, because it does not change reality. It changes your perception of it. It makes clear things seem unclear. It makes simple situations feel complicated. It makes truth feel uncertain. You may have experienced moments where you knew something but then suddenly questioned it, where your initial instinct felt strong, but then your mind began to overanalyze it, where clarity turned into confusion, not because anything changed externally, but because something shifted internally. That is distortion. It clouds your thinking. It blurs your understanding. It makes you feel unsure in moments where you were once certain. And when that happens, you become less decisive. You hesitate. You hold back. You wait for clarity that was already there before it was distorted. These three forces, distraction, delay, and distortion, work together. Distraction pulls your attention away. Delay slows your movement down. Distortion confuses your perception. And when all three are active at once, it creates a cycle. You lose focus, you lose momentum, and you lose clarity. And in that cycle, you begin to feel stuck, even though nothing has physically blocked your path. But here's what changes everything. Now you see it. Now you understand it. And once you understand the strategy, it loses its power to operate unnoticed. Because distraction only works when you don't recognize it. But now, you will begin to notice when your attention is being pulled unnecessarily. You will begin to bring yourself back instead of being carried away. Delay only works when it creates doubt. But now, you will begin to recognize that timing shifts do not always mean denial. You will stay grounded instead of questioning everything. Distortion only works when you believe the confusion. But now, you will begin to pause instead of reacting. You will return to what you originally sensed instead of abandoning it. This is where the shift begins. Because the strategy that once worked quietly no longer works the same way once you are aware of it. You are no longer moving blindly. You are no longer reacting automatically. You are no longer unaware of what is influencing you. And that awareness alone begins to break the cycle. Because now, when distraction comes, you will recognize it. When delay happens, you will understand it. And when distortion tries to cloud your thinking, you will see through it. This is how the battle begins to turn. Not by force, but by clarity. And you are stepping into that clarity now. Type ISE the strategy in the comments if this message resonates with you. Blessing code 6060 is now strengthening your clarity. There is a reason why everything feels more intense right now. A reason why the pressure has increased, why the distractions feel stronger, why the emotional weight seems heavier than before. This is not your imagination, and it is not a random escalation. What you are experiencing is what happens when a battle reaches its breaking point. When something that has been building quietly behind the scenes can no longer remain hidden, it begins to surface with force. And that is exactly where you are now. Because battles in the spiritual realm do not remain at the same level forever. They move in phases. There is a beginning, where things are subtle and almost unnoticeable. There is a middle, where patterns start to form and resistance becomes more consistent. And then there is a peak, the moment where everything intensifies before it shifts. That peak is where exposure happens. That peak is where truth begins to rise above confusion. And that peak is where the outcome begins to take shape. You are standing in that moment now. This is why things feel different. Not just difficult, but concentrated. Like multiple things are happening at once. Like situations are unfolding faster than usual. Like emotions are rising to the surface without warning. That intensity is not there to overwhelm you. It is there because something is about to break. And when something is about to break, pressure always increases first. Think about the moments where you felt like you were finally gaining clarity, only to suddenly feel pulled back into confusion. Or the times when you felt a sense of peace, and then something disrupted it almost immediately. A back and forth is not random. It is the sign of a transition point. It is the moment where opposing forces are both active at the same time, one trying to maintain control, the other pushing for change. And change is winning. But before that change fully takes hold, there is always resistance. Not because the resistance is stronger, but because it is making its final attempt to hold on. That is why things feel heightened. That is why distractions seem more persistent. That is why emotions may feel more amplified. Because the cycle that has been operating around you is being challenged, and when cycles are challenged, they react. You may have noticed that certain patterns are repeating more quickly now. Situations that used to take time to develop are happening faster. Reactions that once felt mild now feel intense. Even your awareness has accelerated. You are noticing things more clearly, more quickly, more precisely. That acceleration is not accidental. It is part of the shift. Because when you approach a breaking point, everything speeds up. What once took months to reveal now takes days. What once took days now happens in moments. The pace increases because the outcome is getting closer. And in that increased pace, everything becomes more visible. The patterns you once missed become obvious. The distractions you once ignored become noticeable. The distortions that once confused you begin to lose their effect. This is the unveiling. And while that may feel overwhelming at times, it is actually a sign that the battle is not continuing. It is concluding. Because exposure is the beginning of resolution. Once something is fully seen, it can no longer operate in the same way. Once something is clearly understood, it loses its ability to control your response. This is why your awareness matters now more than ever. Because in this phase, your response determines how you move forward. If you react to the intensity without understanding it, you can get pulled back into the cycle. But if you recognize what is happening, if you stay grounded in your awareness, if you observe instead of react, you move through it instead of being caught in it. This is not the time to second-guess yourself. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to stay steady. Because what feels like pressure is actually release in progress. What feels like intensity is actually exposure unfolding. What feels like everything happening at once is actually everything coming to the surface so it can finally shift. You are not at the beginning of this anymore. You are at the turning point. And once a turning point is reached, things do not go back to how they were before. They move forward. They change. They transform. And that transformation is already in motion, even if you cannot fully see it yet. So if things feel heightened right now, do not assume something is wrong. Recognize that something is ending. Recognize that something is breaking. Recognize that something is shifting in a way that cannot be reversed. Because this is the moment where the battle reaches its peak and begins to fall. Type "I stand through the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7070 is now stabilizing your path. Right now, in the middle of everything you've been sensing, everything you've been navigating, everything that has felt uncertain and intense, there is a truth you must anchor yourself in. You are not exposed. You are not unguarded. You are not walking through this battle without covering. You are surrounded by a level of protection that you cannot fully see, but you are experiencing every single day. And that protection is not passive. It is active. It is precise. It is intentional. It is what can only be described as a divine shield. This shield is not something fragile. It is not something that appears only when things are calm. It is strongest in the middle of pressure. It is most active in the middle of resistance. And right now, it is positioned around you in ways that are intercepting, redirecting, and neutralizing what you were never meant to carry. There have been things sent toward you that never reached you. There have been outcomes that could have unfolded very differently but didn't. There have been moments where you were unknowingly protected from situations that would have drained you, misled you, or set you back in ways you would not have immediately understood. And you may not have recognized those moments as protection at the time. Because protection does not always feel like relief. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like disruption. Sometimes it feels like things not going the way you plan. But behind all of that there has been coverage. Because a shield does not just block what is obvious. It also absorbs what is hidden. It stops what you cannot anticipate. It guards against what you are not aware of yet. and that is exactly what has been happening around you. There are conversations that never fully formed because something interrupted them. There are decisions others could have made that would have affected you, but something caused them to hesitate. There are paths you could have taken that seemed right at the time, but something shifted and moved you away from them. That is not coincidence. That is protection in motion. And the reason you are being covered at this level is because of what is connected to your path. Not just where you are now, but where you are moving toward. There is something ahead of you that requires you to arrive intact, that requires you to be clear, that requires you to not carry certain disruptions into the next phase of your life. So the shield is not only about your present, it is about your positioning. It is making sure that what should not follow you does not reach you. It is ensuring that what is not aligned does not attach itself to you. It is filtering what comes near you, even when you are not consciously aware of it. And because of that, there are moments where things feel like they are being taken away, when in reality, they are being filtered out. This is why certain connections have shifted. This is why certain environments have started to feel uncomfortable. This is why certain patterns no longer feel natural to you. Because the shield does not just protect, it separates. It creates distance between you and what cannot move forward with you. And sometimes, that separation can feel unsettling. Because you may not always understand why something no longer fits the way it used to. You may question why things feel different when nothing obvious has changed. You may wonder why you feel pulled away from situations you once accepted without question. But what you are feeling is alignment being enforced. You are being guided into a space where what surrounds you matches where you are going, not where you have been. And the shield is playing a direct role in that process. It is not allowing you to remain in places that will slow you down. It is not allowing certain influences to continue shaping your perception. It is not allowing certain cycles to repeat. This is protection at a deeper level. Not just protecting you from harm, but protecting your direction. And the more you become aware of this, the more you begin to trust what is happening around you. You begin to understand that even when something does not make immediate sense, it is still working in your favor. You begin to recognize that you are not navigating this alone, and that there is a structure in place that is guiding, guarding, and adjusting things on your behalf. This is where your confidence begins to shift. Because now, you are not just aware of the battle, you are aware of the shield. You are not just recognizing resistance, you are recognizing protection. You are not just feeling intensity, you are understanding that you are covered within it. And that change is how you move. Because when you know you are protected, you stop operating from fear. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop assuming the worst. And instead, you begin to move with a steady awareness that no matter what unfolds around you, you are not unguarded within it. You are covered. You are shielded. You are being held in place by something far stronger than anything working against you. And that shield is not weakening. It is strengthening. Right now, type "I am divinely covered" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8080 is now surrounding your life. As this covering settles over your spirit, understand this truth. Every seed you release into this mission becomes part of someone else's protection, someone else's awakening, someone else's breakthrough. This is not about supporting a message. This is about extending a shield of light into lives that are still searching for truth. The word declares, "Those who sow in faith shall reap in abundance," and this moment is your opportunity to activate that promise through obedience. I am speaking directly to you now. Step into this flow, align with this purpose, and release what is in your hands so heaven can multiply what is in your life. Your giving is not a transaction. It is a prophetic act that carries power beyond what you can see. The PayPal link in the description and the QR code on your screen are not just access points. They are gateways for you to partner with what God is doing right now. Move with intention, act with faith, and let your seed become a force that spreads light where darkness once prevailed. Now that you see more clearly, now that you understand the battle, the strategy, and the protection surrounding you, there is a shift that must take place within you. Because awareness alone is not the final step. Awareness is the doorway. What you do with that awareness determines what happens next. And this is where the call to alignment begins. This is not about doing more. It is about becoming more intentional with what you are already doing. Because alignment is not forced. It is chosen. It is the decision to stop moving in ways that disconnect you from your clarity. It is the willingness to release patterns that you now recognize are no longer serving you. It is the discipline to pause when something feels off instead of pushing through it blindly. And most importantly, it is the commitment to trust what you are sensing, even when it does not yet make logical sense. Right now, your environment is adjusting around you, but your internal alignment must match that shift. Because if your external situation begins to change but your internal state remains the same, you will resist the very transformation that is trying to take place. That is why this moment matters. This is where you decide whether you move with the shift or hesitate against it. There are things you already know you need to step away from. Not because someone told you to. Not because it is obvious to everyone else. But because something inside you have been signaling it repeatedly. Certain conversations that drain you instead of adding clarity. Certain habits that keep you in cycles you are now aware of. Certain thought patterns that no longer feel aligned with who you are becoming. You have felt it. You have noticed it. And now, you cannot ignore it. Alignment requires honesty. Not surface-level honesty, but deep, internal honesty. The kind that asks you to acknowledge what you already sense, but have been hesitant to act on. The kind that asks you to stop justifying what you know is misaligned. The kind that calls you to choose clarity over comfort. Because comfort will keep you where you are, but alignment will move you forward. This is also the moment where your attention becomes more deliberate. You cannot allow your focus to be scattered the way it was before. You cannot allow distraction to pull you away from your awareness now that you understand how it operates. You must begin to protect your attention the same way you would protect something valuable, because it is. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. And where your energy goes, your direction forms. So if your attention is constantly pulled into confusion, into unnecessary noise, into things that do not contribute to your clarity, you will feel that instability. But if you begin to bring your attention back, to center it, to focus it on what matters, you will notice a shift almost immediately. Clarity strengthens. Calm returns. Direction stabilizes. Alignment is not complicated, but it requires consistency. It is choosing, moment by moment, to stay connected to what you now understand instead of falling back into what you have already outgrown. It is noticing when your thoughts begin to drift into doubt and bringing them back into clarity. It is recognizing when something feels off and giving yourself permission to step back instead of forcing yourself to stay. And there is another part of alignment that you must embrace. Silence. Not isolation, not withdrawal from life, but intentional quiet. Because clarity does not grow in constant noise. You need moments where your mind is not being pulled in multiple directions. Moments where you are not reacting, not responding, not processing external input. Just observing. Just listening. Just allowing your awareness to settle. In that stillness, things become clearer. What felt confusing begins to make sense. What felt uncertain begins to settle. What felt overwhelming begins to organize itself. Because when you create space, you allow what is already within you to come forward. And that is where your guidance is. Not outside of you, within your awareness. This is also where trust becomes essential. Because alignment will not always feel comfortable at first. It may require you to step away from things that once felt familiar. It may require you to say no where you used to say yes. It may require you to move differently, even when others do not understand why. But you are not aligning for others. You are aligning for your path. And your path requires clarity. It requires focus. It requires the willingness to move with what you now know, even if it means leaving behind what you once accepted. This is not a moment to hesitate. This is not a moment to go back. This is the moment to step fully into what you have been sensing all along. Because everything you have become aware of is leading you here. To this decision. To this shift. To this alignment. And once you step into it, things will begin to move differently. Not because the world around you suddenly changes overnight, but because you are no longer interacting with it the same way. You are more aware, more intentional, more aligned. And that changes everything. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9090 is now anchoring your direction. There is something you must allow yourself to understand now. Something that may feel difficult to fully accept at first because of everything you have been experiencing. The battle you have been sensing. The pressure you have been navigating. The intensity that has surrounded you. It does not end in uncertainty. It does not end in confusion. It does not end in loss. The outcome of this has already been determined. And that outcome is not defeat. It is victory. But this is where perspective becomes everything. Because when you are in the middle of a battle, it rarely feels like victory is close. It feels like things are still unfolding, still uncertain, still unresolved. You see the movement, you feel the pressure, but you do not always see the outcome clearly. And that is where doubt tries to enter. That is where your mind begins to question what is really happening. That is where you may start to wonder if things will truly shift. But the truth does not change based on what you feel in the moment. The truth is this: the tide has already begun to turn. And you are not waiting for victory to begin. You are moving through a process where victory is already in motion. This is what changes your position in this battle. You are not fighting to win. You are moving through what has already been secured. And that means every moment of clarity you gain, every shift in your awareness, every pattern you break, every step you take in alignment, it is not creating victory. It is revealing it. This is why things are beginning to expose themselves. Because when a tide turns, it does not happen quietly. It shifts direction. What once moved against you begins to lose its force. What once felt strong begins to weaken. What once operated in the background begins to come into view. You may have already started to notice this. Things that once confused you are starting to make sense. Patterns that once felt hidden are becoming visible. Situations that once felt overwhelming are beginning to lose their intensity. And even though everything may not be fully resolved yet, something inside you is becoming more stable. That stability is not random. That is the effect of the shift. Because when victory is in motion, it begins internally before it fully manifests externally. You begin to feel different before everything around you looks different. You begin to think differently before your circumstances fully reflect that change. And that internal shift is what carries you through the final phase of the battle. This is also why the pressure you felt earlier begins to change its nature. It no longer feels like something pushing against you. It begins to feel like something moving around you. The intensity does not disappear immediately, but your relationship to it changes. You are no longer reacting to it the same way. You are no longer being pulled into it the same way. You are standing differently within it. And that is a sign that the tide has turned. Because once that internal shift happens, the external cannot remain the same for long. What no longer aligns with your clarity begins to fall away. What no longer matches your direction begins to lose its place in your life. And what is meant to move forward with you begins to align more naturally. This is not forced. This is not rushed. This is the natural result of a shift that has already begun. There will still be moments where things feel uncertain. There will still be moments where you do not have every answer immediately. But those moments no longer carry the same weight they once did. Because now, you are grounded in something deeper than the moment itself. You are grounded in the understanding that this is moving toward resolution. That this is unfolding with direction. That this is not random. And that changes how you move forward. Because now, you are not reacting to what happens. You are observing it. You are not being pulled into confusion. You are seeing through it. You are not questioning every step. You are allowing the process to unfold while staying aligned within it. This is what it looks like when victory is already written. It does not always arrive with sudden clarity. It reveals itself in layers, in shifts, in moments where you realize you are no longer where you used to be, even if you are not yet fully where you are going. And that realization is important, because it shows you that movement is happening, that progress is real, that the battle is not continuing indefinitely. It is resolving. You are moving out of the cycle and into a different phase entirely. A phase where clarity replaces confusion, where stability replaces tension, where direction replaces uncertainty. And even if everything is not fully visible yet, you can feel that shift beginning to take hold. That feeling is confirmation. You are not standing at the beginning anymore. You are standing in the transition. And the outcome of that transition has already been set. Victory is not something you are hoping for. It is something you are moving into. Step by step. Moment by moment. With every shift that takes place within you. And nothing that has been happening around you has the power to reverse that now. Because the tide has already turned. Type I receive the victory in the comments if this message resonates with you. Blessing code 1010 is now sealing your outcome. What you are moving through right now is not just about surviving a battle. It is not just about getting through a difficult phase. It is about what comes after. Because every battle that reaches its turning point leads into a transformation. And that transformation is not abstract. It is not distant. It is something that will begin to show up in your life in ways that are real, tangible, and undeniable. The aftermath of this shift will not look like chaos. It will look like clarity. Because one of the first things that will change is how you see everything around you. The same situations that once confused you will no longer hold the same power. The same patterns that once repeated themselves will no longer feel natural. The same environments that once felt normal will begin to feel different, not because they changed, but because you did. Your perception will sharpen. And when your perception sharpens, your decisions change. You will no longer feel the need to overanalyze what you already understand. You will no longer second-guess what you clearly sense. You will no longer stay in situations that require you to ignore your own awareness. That internal conflict that once drained your energy will begin to dissolve, because you are no longer divided within yourself. There will be a new level of peace that enters your life. Not a temporary calm, not a surface-level relief, but a steady, grounded peace that does not disappear the moment something external shifts. This peace will not come from everything being perfect around you. It will come from you being aligned within yourself, from knowing what you see, trusting what you feel, and no longer needing constant validation to confirm your direction. That kind of peace is powerful, because once you have it, you do not easily lose it. And along with that peace, there will be a sense of separation, not isolation, but distinction. You will begin to notice that certain people, certain conversations, certain environments no longer hold the same place in your life. Not because you are rejecting them aggressively, but because you naturally outgrow them. Things that once felt necessary will begin to feel optional. Things that once felt comfortable will begin to feel limiting. And things that once held your attention will begin to lose their importance. This is not loss. This is refinement. Because as clarity increases, alignment becomes more specific. You begin to recognize what truly supports your direction and what does not. And once you see that clearly, you cannot go back to ignoring it. You begin to move differently, not out of force, but out of understanding. There will also be restoration, but it may not look the way you once expected it to. Because restoration is not always about bringing things back exactly as they were. Sometimes, it is about replacing what was lost with something more aligned. Sometimes, it is about restoring your sense of direction, your sense of clarity, your sense of stability, so that what comes next is built on a stronger foundation than before. You may find that what returns to you is not identical to what left, but it will be better suited for where you are now, because you are not the same person you were before this shift. You are more aware, more grounded, more aligned, and what comes into your life after this point will reflect that version of you. There will also be momentum. Things that once felt delayed will begin to move more naturally. Not rushed, not chaotic, but steady. The kind of movement that feels consistent instead of forced. Opportunities will begin to align without the same level of resistance. Decisions will feel clearer without the same level of confusion. And you will notice something else. You will no longer feel like you are constantly trying to figure everything out, because you will have developed something far more valuable than answers. You will have developed clarity, and clarity changes everything. It changes how you respond. It changes what you accept. It changes what you walk away from. It changes how you move forward. This is the true aftermath of the battle you have been walking through. Not just survival, transformation. You are not coming out of this the same way you entered it. You are coming out of this with a different level of awareness, a different level of stability, and a different level of alignment that will shape everything that follows. And once that shift fully settles, you will look back and realize something important. That what felt like pressure was preparation. That what felt like confusion was clearing. That what felt like resistance was redirection. And that everything you went through led you into this version of yourself. This is where your life begins to feel different. Not because everything around you has completely changed overnight, but because you have. Type "I step into the NEW" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activating your next phase. This is the moment everything has been leading to. Not just the awareness, not just the battle, not just the protection, or the shift or the clarity that has been unfolding within you. This, right here, is the point where everything becomes a decision. Because you have seen too much now to go back to being unaware. You have felt too much now to pretend that nothing has changed. You have understood too much now to continue moving the same way you did before. And that is why this moment carries weight. Because moments like this do not repeat themselves the same way twice. There are times in life where you are given information, and then there are times where you are given activation. This is not just something for you to hear and move past. This is something for you to respond to. Because what has been revealed to you was not revealed casually. It was revealed because the timing is exact. Because where you are right now matters more than you realize. You are standing at a threshold. A point where you either step forward into alignment or slowly drift back into patterns that you have already outgrown. And the difference between those two paths is not external, is internal. It is the decision you make after this moment ends. Because it is easy to feel clarity while you are hearing something that resonates. It is easy to feel awareness when everything is being explained in a way that makes sense. But what determines your direction is what you do when the noise returns. When distractions come back. When situations test whether you will respond the same way you used to or differently now that you understand. This is where activation happens. Not in what you hear, but in what you choose. Because the truth is, nothing that has been revealed to you will matter if it is not applied. Awareness without action fades. Clarity without alignment weakens. Understanding without movement becomes temporary. And this is not meant to be temporary. This is meant to shift you permanently. You are not meant to walk away from this and return to the same patterns. You are not meant to ignore what you now recognize. You are not meant to silence your awareness just to stay comfortable. Because comfort is what kept you in cycles before. And you have already moved beyond that. Now, you must stand in it. Even when it is not easy. Even when it requires you to move differently. Even when it requires you to trust what you feel without immediate confirmation from others. Because this is your moment of alignment. And moments like this do not wait. They pass. They either become turning points or missed opportunities. And that is why this is a warning. Not of fear, but of urgency. Because if you ignore what you now know, if you return to what you have already outgrown, if you allow distraction to pull you back into old patterns, the cycle will attempt to reset. Not because it is stronger than you, but because you stepped away from your awareness. But if you stay aligned, if you hold on to this clarity, if you continue to move with intention instead of reaction, everything you have felt shifting will continue forward. The protection will remain active. The clarity will continue to deepen. The path will continue to open. And the version of you that you are stepping into will become your new normal. This is not the end of something. This is the beginning of something. A different way of moving. A different way of responding. A different level of awareness that will shape everything that comes next. And it starts with this decision. Right now. Not later. Not eventually. Now. Because this is your activation point. And what you do after this determines everything that follows. Type "I step forward now" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now sealing your alignment. As this activation settles within you, understand this: what has reached you today is not just a message. It is a flame meant to spread, a light meant to reach those still walking in darkness, still searching for clarity, still waiting for their moment of awakening. When you sow into this mission, through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a channel. You are releasing oil into a divine fire that touches lives across the world. The Lord declares, "Cast your seed upon the waters, and it shall return unto you." And this is your moment to step into that living promise. I am calling you directly. Move now, act now, align now, because your giving becomes a prophetic response to what heaven has placed in your spirit. This is not optional. This is obedience in motion, a divine exchange that unlocks blessings not only for others, but for you. The PayPal link in every description and the QR code on your screen are your gateway to participate in this sacred work. Release your seed and watch how heaven responds to your faith with multiplication, favor, and open doors that no force can shut.